So we're here talking about 5 major reasons why people quit exercising. I'm here with Miss Heather. We got 5 reasons. Today we're talking about the 3rd reason, agoraphobia. Fear of being in public, especially people who are not in what they see as great shape. Their body image makes a big difference. Oh, I'm gonna be, and I'm putting air quotes up here, I'm gonna be walking around my neighborhood and people are gonna laugh at me because they're gonna think I'm fat.
The thing is, it's like, once you start exercising in public, now you're a public person, and now people may interact with you, or like, and it depends on where you are. Where I am, I might get hollered at, or where I am, someone might come up to me tomorrow and be like, oh, I saw you out running the other day. Or something that used to be annoying me is I would go for a jog in my neighborhood, but I would leave my block walking. Once I got down the block, and I would get into it and I would jog, and I would give myself a good block and a half to come down. I got it like a high heart rate.
Yeah.
And I remember someone was like, oh, are you out for a walk?
Yeah.
And I was just like, yeah. Like, I don't need anyone to comment on it. But so go ahead.
Yeah, but like, it doesn't happen that much that anyone says anything to you. I can tell you, well, as a man, see, I'm a man, it's different.
It's different.
But in my like 10 years of running, I think early on when I had that fear, so I ran super early in the morning, a guy passed me when I went from a run to a walk because I was exhausted. He's like, you're supposed to keep going.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, I'm gonna keep going if I can keep going. You know?
Yeah, it's like, let me see you do this.
That's part. I think that guy actually steeled my resolve to like actually get to distance.
But so there's 2 sides of that. There's a side which is kind of what I do, which is I have a space that's not public that I can work out, and that makes me the happiest. But that's a privilege that I have right now. Whereas before, I just ran through it, and I'm a thick-skinned person, or, I either kept doing it, or I changed my workout, or I would change the locations of where I worked out, or I would potentially drive to a place. I could always drive to like my high school track and walk that in my hometown if I didn't want to walk the neighborhood. Here, if I don't want to walk, I can drive into town and walk around there. That's an acceptable thing. But the best and most head-on way to affect it is prove yourself wrong.
Yeah.
Go to the gym, or, again, if someone does make a comment, it's the vast minority.
Yeah.
Again, the ideal way to handle every fear is head on. It's the hardest way possible, but you get the best result.
I would definitely say with a caveat though, because Miss Heather knows this, and that is that women have to be careful exercising.
No matter
at
what,
times
it's
a day.
safety. No matter what, your head's on a swivel. No matter what, you have
Even
one
men,
earbud out. You're taking note of cars and people, or people in the gym. Who's lingering. I'm all for finding a room in your house, closing a room off, putting a yoga mat in a hallway, working out in a garage, going into, finding a space that you can make yours for 20 minutes that has enough room where you can do some stretches. If that's your solution, that's a fine solution. You don't have to prove the world wrong.
Yeah. And since we're talking about, what are we talking about?
That was
fear of being seen. You're scared of dogs. You should probably be around dogs. You're scared of people. Chances are you probably need to be around people a little bit more. I know a lot of people don't want to hear that. But.
Well, yeah, and it's the fear of being perceived. I don't know. I grew up in a dense area, so I loved being invisible in a crowd. When I was in a crowd, I knew no one cared about what I looked like, what I was doing. As a female, you know whose eyes are on you, and you know who's been lingering around too long. You're like watching your peripherals. And when you're in a crowd and you can sense that everyone is also in their own world, that was my favorite.
Yeah.
I could be around people, but no one cared. Or if I did something weird, if I tripped, I was so far from the weirdest thing that person had seen that day. Yeah. I wasn't self-conscious. I could be silly in public.
That's a kind of New York attitude of parallel laws. Unraveling.
Everyone's looking around.
Everyone,
yeah, no one.
that's why stars love living in New York.
No one cares.
pays
They'd be
attention
like, hey,
to
how
them.
you doing? Yeah.